Von McMillan, founder and CEO of Advocate for Me, LLC, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, welcome to our episode number 4. And today I'm so excited, so excited because I have my first interview, and it is with a real good friend and mom who I met when I did my Autism Moms Night Out event. And she was one of our guests. And ever since then, we've been friends and moving and shaking and empowering families ever since. So I want to welcome tonight Chante Douglas. So
Thank
welcome.
you. I'm so hyped to be on your show. I'm so proud of you. You continue to keep doing amazing things in the community. So I'm just happy to be on the podcast. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you so much. So tonight I'm gonna ask Chante a few questions, and then she can share. After the few questions, she can share what whatever she wants to share to families who are caring for their children with special needs. So the first question is um when you received your child's diagnosis, what was your first reaction? And you can share what that diagnosis is.
Okay, so my son Levi, who is now 7, initially it was a developmental delay. And he was, I want to say he was almost 2 years old, so he wasn't quite 2 years old. And that's when we immediately started early intervention services. From there, it went to once he turned 3, we were able to get an official diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. And with a at the time we didn't know what type of speech disorder, but they classified it as a speech disorder. Now we know officially it's echolalia. And my initial, just with hearing a developmental delay, I bust out crying in the doctor's office. And, things were already kind of tense between me and his dad as it was. So to add that on was kind of like adding like fuel to the fire. But, it took me a couple of weeks to really process what what was really going on with my child, because prior to even knowing anything, hearing the diagnosis of autism, I didn't know anything about autism and all the things that I know now. Like, I think the only thing I remember hearing about autism, I was watching a 2020 special on the relationship between horses and kids with autism, and how it helps them with communication, because horses seem to are extremely intelligent, and they just have this way with kids with special needs. So that was the only thing I really even knew about it. So once, I got myself together emotionally, I think it quickly transitioned from me being upset and like being scared for my child, to really just diving into what did I needed to do to support him. Like, what's the next step? And at that, it was just rough. Like, just honestly, it was just really rough, because I really felt isolated. I felt like, um, who can I talk to that's been where I've been at, going through this journey? And that's where like social media really is a positive, because you can link
Mm-hmm.
up with so many people, not just within, your local area, but like people that live, down south, west coast, overseas, other people who have nonprofit organizations that do certain things that's a need within our community, that, typical parents kind of like don't have to think about, that we do, you know what I'm saying? So it that's really what my saving grace was building a tribe of people that I knew would understand what I'm going through emotionally, what my son's going through, and you're in the field, and you definitely know, like, it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart to really be 100% dedicated to your child that needs a lot more assistance than the neurotypical kids, and yeah, it was honestly, and I don't really talk about this too much, but I'm just gonna be brutally honest.
Oh no,
I
please do, because it might help somebody
I
else.
felt disconnected from Levi for a little bit, only because I didn't understand autism, and then I wasn't understanding what the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown was, because we were going through the toddler phase, so toddlers and tantrum goes hand in hand, so you don't know, like, is he just having a tantrum because he's 2.5, or is he having a meltdown because it's a sensory overload? And I didn't even know, like, what sensory overload means. I didn't know, like, kids can be undersensitized or oversensitized, what sensory input, what, like, I didn't know none of that. It was just more of like learning as I go and like researching and stuff. And I think what brought us back together was he felt connected to Elmo, and I was like, oh, okay, Sesame Street, that was something part of my childhood, and I'm like, okay, so we can build on that.
Mhm.
And first it started with me taking him to Sesame Street Live, which was a complete train wreck. What what set him off was he wanted to go on stage. Like, I had made sure I had got tickets, like, really, that was probably my fault, because I had got tickets that was close to the stage, right? And I was like, yeah, this will work, because he'll be able to see, the characters. Why did I do that? Because, and fast forward, he's kind of like the same way. He just wants to be front and center of everything, right? He was trying to get on stage. And I was like, no, baby, you can't. And then that set it off, and like to the point I couldn't calm him down, so we had to end up leaving. So we were only at the show for like 35 minutes, and I spent all that money on tickets. I was just like, I was so frustrated walking back to the car. It was a lot. Like, what I want to tell parents, like, if you're newly diagnosed with your kid and you're still trying to figure stuff out, it's going to take a minute for you to be comfortable going out with your kid, knowing what their limitations are, how to handle people who's going to come up to you and say something smart or say something really out of pocket, or give those, and you've seen those stares. They give them like side eye looks, like,
Mhm.
well, what's up with your child? Because
Mhm.
it's not like our kids have a physical disability where you automatically get that sympathy, because they're like, oh, he's in a wheelchair, or, oh, and this is no shade to that other portion of the special needs community. But um not saying it's even easier for them, but like, is less explaining when and
Mhm.
that's just like the psyche of people. Like, when you physically see somebody in a wheelchair and they have cerebral palsy, or they have some other type of physical disability, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But like with my kid, he's running around, he's doing like these body movements, he's stimming, and they're just looking at him like, well, what's wrong with him? Like, why is he being quote
Mhm.
unquote weird? You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm. Or you gotta learn how to control your child, like if you're in the environment, but they just don't know what's going on at
right.
that time.
So it's it's really it's really a journey, and it's a journey that once you overcome a roadblock, you're going to hit another one, because as kids grow, they hit new milestones, and with that comes with a whole new set of challenges that you got to kind of push through, if you can, you know what I'm saying? But it was rough. Like, I try to be as transparent as possible when people ask me about, me and Levi's journey. And sometimes I look back and I really don't. I mean, I know why. I mean, God doesn't put on you what you can't handle, and He knows who is mentally strong to persevere. I mean, I get that now, but at the time, it was like I was going through a really toxic relationship with his dad, that resulted in like a domestic violence situation. Um, so having to deal with that, or not dealing with that because I was so busy trying to make sure Levi was being supported and going to therapy sessions and trying to find the right daycare and preschool. Um, I really didn't take care of myself like I should have. And that's so important when you're taking care of being a parent in general, but especially with us as special needs parents, we take on, even more of a responsibility than a lot of neurotypical parents don't even have to think about. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
doing virtual learning. Most of the typical parents, okay, yeah, log in, do your class or whatever. We log in, we have circle time. Then we have a one-to-one session with his teacher that we're working on like goals on his IEP. Then he has speech sessions that which just started this no, started last week with the school. Then he has his special classes, which is like his art classes, his music class, his math class. Then I just added additional speech therapy, outside speech therapy, because I felt like what was given to him through the school wasn't sufficient enough. So we just started that. And he has a TSS support. So it's like all this stuff that I have to juggle. These neurotypical parents don't really, they don't have to worry about that. And it's not to like downplay parenthood for them, isn't as difficult, but it's like, people really take for granted what they don't have to think about that we do, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a child that really didn't start talking, and I'm talking about like putting sentences together until he was about 4, and then really like learning like two-step requests, like Levi, get this and put it there. That didn't start happening until he was like about like 5.5. So it's like, um that's why I'm so big on celebrating every little milestone that he hits,
Yeah.
because he wasn't doing that last year, or he wasn't doing that 6 months ago or 3 weeks ago. So and getting back to, just being a single parent, um it's rough. It's extremely rough. And I think even now, like I'm in therapy now, dealing with finally healing and dealing with things that I should have dealt with 5 years ago and I didn't. But I think it was a way for God to tell me like you need to take care of yourself, because you're going to check out like mentally, and you can't keep running on 1,000 and don't do self-care. And I
Exactly.
ended up being officially diagnosed with PTSD the end of last year. Levi was also diagnosed with an adjustment disorder due to trauma. So we're both in therapy. And what's kind of great is when I talk to his therapist, she also helps me as well. So I kind of get like a double helping of support, because I mean it's only
Mm-hmm.
right that, when she's doing her therapy sessions with him, she always starts the session off by asking like, how's everything going with you? Are you, staying on top of your therapy sessions? Are you getting enough support? Is there anything that we can do to better support you and Levi? So that means a lot. And they've stayed with us through the entire pandemic. Thank God. Because everyone, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone doesn't have that luxury of having that support. And um it's something that I don't take for granted, because everyone doesn't have that luxury. And then unfortunately, we see the disparities in our communities, black versus white, as far as what's accessible and what's not, and who do we trust to diagnose our kid, who do we trust to, make sure that we're getting the quality care that we deserve for our kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, just a lot of stuff being compounded within the black community, as far as making sure we have resources available, for kids that have autism or whatever other type of special needs, and that they're getting quality care, to help them, you know, um, just thrive and have the best life that they can. um I think in the beginning it was what fueled me was the fact that I just didn't want to let Levi down. And it
Mhm.
was already bad enough that, his dad kind of just, checked out. And he's still kind of like the same way. I mean, he stepped up enough to take him on the weekends. But to me, that's like, I can get a babysitter to do that. Like, I need you to show up for therapy sessions. I need you to call and check up on your son. Don't just check out after, I pick him up or you drop him off Sunday nights and then I don't hear from you or see you until the following Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Like he's missed so much as far as Levi's progress that he really doesn't know his son. You know what I'm saying? I think it's like, and like I told him, I had a conversation with him and I said, it doesn't bother you that like the times that you didn't have your son, you're around your boys and they're out with their kids and God knows what lies you making up about why you don't have your son, but you know what the truth is. Like you checked out, like you gave up on him. And that's not cool. I don't care what happened between me and you because that was between me and you, but this is an innocent child that didn't ask to be here, didn't ask to be diagnosed with autism, didn't ask to have two parents who aren't together anymore. And um he's just trying to find his way in the world. But you missed out on so
Mhm.
much. And at this point, like just being completely honest, Levon, like I have given up that fight of with him. Like I don't even need to exert that energy no more. Like you already know what you need to do. Like Levi's about to be 8 years old come February. If you don't know by now what you need to do, and it's the same thing week in, week out. He has therapy sessions, he has wraparound services, he's in school. You don't even know where the school is, you haven't met the teacher, you don't even know that I went to battle with the school district for them to accommodate my child because they weren't following his IEP. And we've been awarded some things to help him so that I can pay for things to help support him better. Like all that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you get the bask in the glory when you get them on the weekends. Like, oh, that's my son and everything. Yeah, okay. But like what else are you doing besides just, having him for quote unquote like literally like overnight? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I know
Mhm.
there's gonna be a lot of single parents that's gonna be listening to this. And um what I want to say to them is like, I was at that point where I was just like, it's never going to get any easier and this is going to be my life. But I want to give a quote that my dad always tells me. He said, there's people out there that wish they could complain about the problems that you have. And that put things in so much perspective for me because like we get stressed out. We go 1,000 for our kids every single day. And then you add a pandemic on top of that. But guess what? Yeah, I got laid off from my job, but I was actually able to get my job back. I still have a roof over my head. I'm still able to put food on the table for me and Levi and clothes on our backs. There's a lot of people, but even before the pandemic, weren't able to do that, and they're struggling out here and they got kids with special needs and they don't know who to talk to or what resources. And, you know, I just want to tell them like, if you can't find a way, make a way. That was always my
Mhm.
life motto when, after I split up with his dad and um trying to figure out my identity again, trying to like stop having nightmares and if I get emotional during this, I'm sorry. But,
No, that's fine.
it was
That's
times
fine.
that, I was having nightmares. I couldn't sleep. And that when I go back and I think about like certain behaviors I was exhibiting, those were classic signs of someone who had PTSD. And I just didn't realize it. Like I was wondering why I
Mhm.
was getting so agitated a lot, having anxiety attacks. Like before we would leave the house, I would be like, all right, I know he's going to flip out. when we go to Sesame Place, or when we go to Please Touch Museum, or we go to the zoo, or we go to the supermarket, or we go to the doctor's. Like, it was like a whole monologue in my head of like almost like trying to predict something bad, and instead of saying like, okay, what can I do to prevent,
To prevent it.
these situations from arising. So I had to kind of like reprogram my brain to think that way of like, all right, let's make sure we got snacks, we got juice, my phone is charged, um bring his favorite toy, whatever his safety thing is, bring that with us. So that sense of being prepared would cut down on the amount of anxiety attacks that I was having. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was and I know I just gave you like such a long answer to that question.
No, but that was awesome while you was talking, I was actually writing some stuff down. You mentioned sensory processing. And so this month is sensory processing
Okay.
awareness month. So if you want to talk a little bit more about sensory processing for those who may not know what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
so sensory processing, especially for kids with autism, we all have the five senses. And I think the best way to explain it, if you think about it like how your brain works, and your brain is one big network, right? And you know how neurotypically our brains can, I don't want to say shut off a certain section of your brain, but it's supposed to be programmed where, you know, I can be talking to you on the phone, right? And I hear something, but it doesn't trigger me because my brain already knows, like, it's telling me, like, okay, you hear someone parking their car outside, but I'm currently talking to you on the phone. Now, like, if it's someone that's on the spectrum, that sound outside could be triggering to them because all of the switches are on. There's no way to kind of like calm it down. So that's why like you have these what I call like sensory overload situations, because they don't know how to filter, like the light is too bright, or I hear a drip of water and that's too loud. And like what people have to realize too is that those meltdowns is a response to pain. It's not because they don't know how to respond. It's really like it hurts. Like the lights being too bright, that hurts their eyes. Like something being too loud, that really hurts their ears, because everything is like, and that's why I really look at people and like adults and kids on the spectrum as superheroes, because like it's almost like, think about it with Spider-Man. If you really delve into it, he exhibits a lot of like the sensory processing um
yeah,
things that people on the spectrum, like if you look, like always in the beginning, he doesn't know how to control what he sees, and he can't control things that he hears that no one else can hear, his sense of touch, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's all like lined up with kids on the spectrum. And it's kind of crazy how I see so many kids on the spectrum gravitate towards Spider-Man. If you ever noticed that correlation, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's,
yep,
it's really
yep,
crazy, right?
yep. Yeah. I was about to say that was a good correlation that you did because they do like a lot of kids that I work with, like they have like their
Right.
Spider-Man toy, or they
Right.
dressed up like
Right.
Spider-Man, so that yeah, they do take a liking to him, and I never looked at it that way. But while you were saying it, like I could picture like in the movie, like when he was going through like, covering his ears if he heard
Right.
like a loud sound or you know, like you were saying, like with his sense of touch or something. So while you were saying that, I was picturing like some of the scenes from the movie, and I never put that correlation together,
Yeah.
but that
I
was a
think
good
what made
one.
me like
That definitely
really
was a good one.
pay attention to it more was because Levi started gravitating so heavily to Spider-Man. I think that was also due to Miles Morales. Because you see, a black kid with
Hmm.
curly hair, and, you know, Levi would just automatically just gravitated towards him, which and that goes into why like representation matters so much to kids because they're sponges. Like to see someone that looks like you dressed as your favorite superhero, that made me dive deeper into, you know, the correlation between like sensory processing and with and if you really think about it, a lot of the Marvel characters exhibit a lot of autism traits. Like look at Rogue, like she can't touch people. If she touches people, she absorbs whatever their powers are, so she don't like to be touched. And
Mm.
I forgot who, another one that's like really like sensitive to like their environment, but it's that's why it's like really these kids and these adults with autism, they're not weird, they're not freaks of nature, they're really just, excuse me, they're truly amazing. And the way that their brains like I just realized, Levine, like with Levi, I was talking to his trauma therapist, and I was telling her, I said, so one day, you know, he goes through like things that he's obsessed with watching on YouTube. So for a while he was obsessed with watching like old episodes of Wheel of Fortune because he was so obsessed with the sound of the wheel spinning and the wheel
The
ticking
will.
to the
Mm-hmm.
point where he can mimic it to a T. So I thought he was watching. I was in my room and I thought, and I kept hearing like right, and I'm like, oh, he must be watching Wheel of Fortune. Well, how about the show wasn't even on? He had figured out a way. He had turned his truck over, took a little car, and put it up against the wheel to make the ticking sound, like to make it like tick, like it was, yeah,
To
to
make
make it
that.
like it was slowing down and like stopping on like a number or whatever. And now, like when we sit in music class, he's on pitch. Like when he sings, like even the music teacher was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
I think he needs to try out for choir or something when he gets older." And like he, when he
Wow.
hears something, and I think that also goes along with the echolalia, that it's really he really can mimic,
Mhm.
he can mimic a muffler, the car screeching, a car crashing, um even, and this is going to sound crazy, but he can even mimic, you know, the what is it, it's the traffic lights before the race starts, like it counts down, it's like dun, dun, and he can imitate that
Mhm.
because for a while
Oh,
he kept
okay.
doing it and I was
Okay.
like, what is he, I'm like, that sounds familiar, but I'm like, what is he doing? So he was watching a clip from like the movie Cars or something. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like he is gotten to
Mhm.
the point where he, however his imagination is running, and he makes sure that he can imitate everything within that environment that he's creating within his imagination. Like he blows my mind like every single day, like how his imagination goes and how when he delves into things, he gets so consumed with it that he can imitate, like he can imitate certain parts of a video
Mhm.
game. Like he just blows my mind like every single day he blows my mind.
Yeah, I know one of the kids on my caseload. He would take he was in pre-K, and he would take like the clay or the Play-Doh, and whatever was the picture on the box or like a toy box, like he would create that with the Play-Doh. Like I would like every time I would come into class and work with him, he just blew my mind because I was like, how do you even see that? And he would make it really tiny to the point where you had to like really take a look at it and then look at the box. And then I'd be like, well, what did you just make? And he'd be like, oh, I just made um like it would be a wheelbarrow or something, or it would be a kid. Like he would literally just take it and create it from out of the clay. And I was like, I told his mom one day, I was like, you got yourself like a
Right.
famous artist or something. I was like, because it's just amazing how he just take like a ball of clay and it would start out as a ball. And he would just form it into exactly whatever the puzzle box. I mean, whatever was on
Wow.
there, he created it with Play-Doh or clay. And I would take pictures of it. I don't have that phone anymore, but I had I think he was on my case like 5 years ago, but I don't have the pictures, but I wish I had like printed them out and like put them in. Like it was just amazing how, and so I can really agree with you, like with what their imagination is and how they can remember things. I remember working at one center. I was with the teenagers, and I did overnight care for them. So it was like a group home setting, and one of the guys remembered every single, like whatever the weather was. Like he read the almanac with his grandfather. So you could have asked him like what was the weather in like 1965. He wasn't even born then. And he would tell you exactly what the weather was, what the temperature was, um, what the dew was. And then if you looked it up, like I would Google it because me and him would sit on the weekends when I was working, and I would Google it and he would be exactly right. Like I was just like, how did you remember that?
Wow.
Like you wasn't even
Yeah, they're
born yet. So like their imagination, their brains soak up so much information. It is just like so, like you were saying, like they like superheroes. Like they're so powerful
right.
with what they can do. Um, so yeah, so thank you for sharing that and explaining it in the way that you explained it. Because somebody can relate when they think of Spider-Man or when they think of
Right.
some of the Marvel characters now that they can see. Um, when they're like there's different senses and to pay attention to it. Like that's my thing is paying attention to it. I know the character in my children's book, David. Um, he doesn't like loud sounds. This was his first time in childcare. And he, make a high. He was nonverbal, so he made like a high pitched noise when they would have music class. And the teacher in the classroom, like she took notice to it. She didn't say it was a behavior problem, but she went to go seek information and seek help with amongst her staff to find out exactly what was going on because she didn't know what to do for him. Like she wanted to make sure that she was taking care of him in the classroom, but if they have different lessons and based on their curriculum, they gotta have music. So they did get him the earmuff, or he went into another classroom when I said earmuff, earphone, or he went into another classroom when they had music class. So just being able to know your surroundings and know how to adapt your classroom so that you're making sure that all your children um, is learning in the right environment and that that's making sure that they're all taken care of and that you're adapting it and not making them adapt to your
Right.
um, classroom situation. So thank you for sharing
Yeah, no
that about
problem.
the sensory processing. And then one other thing you had talked about was self care. I'm gonna tie both of them together, self care and therapy. Um, so and you and I already had this conversation when I told you that I'm glad that you were seeking therapy because a lot of people in our community they don't. And I did the same thing when I was going through a lot of my personal issues. I have both of my kids. Well, one of them received trauma therapy, and then we're actually about to sign up my daughter um, for therapy because she has like these emotional, um, I call them emotional spots where she goes like she cries for like half an hour, 45 minutes, nonstop, and she just thinks about everything about her childhood. So I'm looking for therapy for her now. But was therapy, did somebody suggest it to you, or was it something that you was like, let me just go get it because I think I need the
Yeah,
support
it
and
was
the help?
definitely me. Um, what triggered what triggered me enough to know like something wasn't right was taking Levi to the child psychologist. This was back in November of last year. Yeah, November last year. Because I started noticing behaviors outside of what was typical to autism. Like he would have these fits of rage. And I knew it wasn't like a sensory thing because we were home and it was during like wraparound services. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, to the point where it was almost like one time he like balled his fist up and was like ready to like hit me in my face, but like my reflexes was fast enough that I grabbed his arm, and I'm like, yo, like what's going on? And I was like, all right, it's time to really, go talk to someone and see what's going on. And then sitting in the office talking to Dr. Zimmerman. That's been his child psychologist for almost a year now. Um and me having to talk about um and I'll talk about this incident because I haven't really like publicly talked about it. So the reason Levi has um a trauma disorder almost 3 years ago, um it was just like any other day. It was on the weekend. My routine was to drop Levi off at his other grandmom's house because his dad was living with his mom at the time, and dropped him off. And his dad told me, he's gonna be with me, the whole weekend. I said, all right. So I get to work, and I noticed that I had left because at the time he had an ear infection, and we were using these antibiotic drops, and I still had it in my scrub coat. And I was like, oh, I forgot to give him, the drops for his ears. So I had texted him and I said, listen, I said, are you going to be home with him when I get off of work? Because I'm done work at 4 o'clock. And he was like, yeah, I'll be home. I was like, yeah, I'll just drop the medication off on my way home. That was about 9 o'clock in the morning, right? So around 1 o'clock, I decided, I'm gonna go to lunch. I get a phone call. So his dad's like, Tay, are you in the office right now? I'm like, yeah, I'm in the office right now. Like, what's up? So he was like, can you step outside for a minute? And I was like, for what? I said, what's going on? Because now I'm already getting agitated. Like now you just, you dragging it out. Like, why'd you call me? And then I could hear the tone in his voice. So I'm automatically like getting more and more agitated. So I'm like, what's the problem? So I was like, just tell me. And he was like, well, um, someone found Levi outside wandering around the neighborhood with no clothes on. The only thing he had on was a pull up because he wasn't fully potty trained then. Mind you, this was a week before my
Mhm.
child's fifth birthday. So this was the end of January, right after we had that really bad cold snap. So it was like still in the 30s. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, first I was like, wait, what? And I'm like just screaming. So and no one at work has ever seen me like mad, like that level of mad, because I can't say what I said on the phone, but my point was made that my
I can
point was
imagine.
made that listen, where's my child at right now? Is he safe? You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
I'm going off on him because I'm like, well, you were supposed to be home with him. So where are you at? Oh, I'm at work. How are you at work? You haven't even paid child support. So what do you do? Like, it was just like, because once I get mad and then I know you're lying, I'm gonna start like, it's almost like those I'm throwing questions at you left and right. I don't even give you a chance to answer those questions because I'm like, yeah, because then I get really mad and I'm like,
The
the more I
answer.
feel like you're
Mhm.
lying, the more mad I'm gonna get. So then he was like, well, he was home with my mom and all right, no said, hung up on him, called her. She picks up the phone and she starts crying. So automatically, like that sent me off the edge. I was like, "What are you crying for?" And I was like, "What happened?" And once again, I because it's your podcast, I cannot say what I said to her. But if you know me very well, anybody who's listening who knows me, you know how my mouth is when I'm really mad. So I cannot say that. But like I was like, "What are you crying for? And what happened?" And all this stuff, right? So at that point I was so mad that I was like I blacked out. Like that's how mad I was because like my first instinct was I'm gonna leave work, I'm gonna jump in this car, and it's a Saturday, middle of the day, ain't no, it's not like a lot of traffic. I'm gonna get in this car, I'm gonna drive to her house, and I'm gonna whoop her ass. Like that's really where I was at with it, right? But then something told me because we was in the middle of like a custody thing, and I said, no way. Yeah, what she did was crazy, but I am never going to give them leverage to take
Exactly.
my child from me. Never. You know what I'm saying? Like I had every right to put my hands on
Mhm.
her, but how's that going to look when if she decided to like call the cops on me and they're like, well, why'd you put your hands on her? And then I explain it like, well, yeah, we get it, but still, you can't do that.
But at the end of the day, yeah, you gotta have that
Right.
mindset of
So you
first
can
of all,
you
who's
you
gonna take
yeah,
care of
so you can
Levi?
understand like the
And
level
yeah.
of like
Mhm.
and this and mind you, This was what, almost 3 years ago. So yeah, I still hadn't addressed the issues I had with his dad. I was overworked. Yeah. So it was
So that
like,
came up. Mm-hmm.
um, something told me, call your dad. Just call your dad. Cause my dad is kind of like, that calmness side of my personality comes from him. Now the other side, the rah rah, I'm a what's up, that comes from my mom. So so I get a healthy balance of both of their personalities. So I got like 2 blocks away from her house, right? And my dad had called me because he just so happened to be like up like near her neighborhood, because I had called him. I said, Dad, can you go get Levi? I'll explain what happened later. I'm leaving work now. And I was like, I probably might beat you to her house because there's no traffic. And it's literally like, without traffic, I can get to her house in like 15, 20 minutes. So I was like 2 blocks away from her house, Levine. And my dad called me. He was like, don't even bother. He was like, I'm home with Levi. He seems to be okay. So I get to my parents' house, and like I could just tell the look on my dad's face. He was pissed. And he was like, yeah, he was like, I came up in the house and he was covered in poop. It was like she didn't even want to change him or nothing. She stayed upstairs. And as he's telling me this, then I'm getting even more pissed off. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call DHS. So I called DHS. I filed a neglect complaint against his dad and his grandma. And then the lady, so let me just tell you like how like DHS, Child Protective Services, they're all a joke because they came to my house first to investigate me, and I'm the one that called. I'm the one that called to report it, and they came to my house first. It was like, well, this is standard. I said, how? I was like, first of all, I have a small apartment, so clearly you can see everything's clean. The water works. Whatever else they got to check. My child is healthy. He looks. You know what I'm saying? I said, you need to go over there and talk to them. And I said, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna tell you, they're gonna lie because that's what they do. They need Academy Awards for the way that they be lying and putting on an act. So sure enough, because I know how his mom is, so they went over there to investigate. And when they came back to me, they was like, yeah, we went over there. And she started crying. And I just really think it's just an accident. So we're just gonna close this case out that it was just an accident. I said, now, you know what? I said, because if I had to did something like that, y'all would have took my child. So what wound up happening is she told DHS that she took some Benadryl and fell asleep. First of all, let's take autism out of the equation. Who in their right mind thinks that's okay to take Benadryl in the morning for a cold and you got to watch a 4-year-old? What part of that makes sense at all? You know what I'm saying? So it was right. So then
Who's
I said,
gonna
then
be
I
watching
told
the
the
4-year-old?
social worker, I said, and then the other thing that doesn't make sense, my son doesn't elope. He doesn't do it with me. He doesn't do it at school, and he doesn't do it with my parents. So just magically, he just does it with them. And I said, he won't leave the house without a jacket on. So you mean to tell me my child went outside the house with nothing on but a pull up, no socks, no sneakers, no coat, no hat, no nothing, and he's wandering the block? So I was like, any of that makes sense to you? So it's like part of what was really messing me up was the fact that, Levi wasn't as verbal as he is now. So he had all of
Mm-hmm.
that whole day is still in his brain processing and processing and processing. He doesn't know. Eventually, because now we're ramping up speech, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get, because his memory is always on point. So I'm pretty sure he'll be able to go back to that day and be like, "Mom, this is what happened." And then it's gonna, I and thank goodness I'm in therapy now that it may not trigger me as bad as it did before, but at least it'll give me some closure on what happened that day to him, because that's the worst feeling in the world, to be
What
like,
happened? Mm-hmm.
something could have happened to my child. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have got hit by a car. He could have got kidnapped. Somebody could have molested him. Anything could have he could have got attacked by a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like anything that you could possibly think of with a child that is not typically verbal for his age. You know what I'm saying? And he was supposed to be in the care of people who are supposed to protect him. They didn't. So that really just like messed me up. So to have to talk about that last year, that triggered
Mm-hmm.
me to the point where um I was in the office like crying. Then I was getting like I was getting so agitated that like I couldn't find ways to calm myself down. I said, "Oh man," I'm like, you know what? I'm really in a bad spot right now. Like I was having headaches. I couldn't concentrate on my work. Um, I was like, something just isn't right. So thank goodness my job has an employee assistant program where you can call and like inquire about different things,
Mhm.
whether it's like you need help finding a babysitter or you need legal advice or whatever. It's like a one-stop shop kind of thing, but you don't have to pay for anything because it's it's kind of like a perk that's paid for by the job. So I had called them and I was like, I'm in the need of, talking to someone, a therapist, a counselor, whatever. And they linked me up to a therapist. And matter of fact, she lives in Pittsburgh. So we had already did the whole FaceTime and telehealth thing before the pandemic happened. So I've been having sessions with her since December of last year. And it's, some sessions are really good and some of them I'm crying. I'm crying during the session, and
Mhm.
that's the hardest part. I hate being vulnerable. And the only reason I say that is because people will use
Mhm.
that as a weakness and use that against you. And that's not healthy either. Like I can't keep,
Mhm.
tears inside because I'll end up drowning in my feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like emotionally drowning that you can't
Mhm.
find
I was about
any
to say,
relief because
amen.
like once I did like open up a lot more to her and started talking, I just couldn't stop crying. Like you couldn't. It was like right. I was
But holding it in all that time, and
right.
like you
So
said,
it
you
was
ain't had
like
no outlet for it.
holding it in for so long and putting on a brave face. I got this, and nobody has it. Nobody on this planet has it all together. And if they say they do, they lying. And you add social media to it, you can
Mhm.
create whatever world you want people to see. You know what I'm saying? And no, everybody doesn't have it together. Everybody's got their struggles that they're going with. Everybody's got their demons that they're trying to fight. Um, and I'm not ashamed to say that, I'm a work in progress. Like I have 5 years, well, in my adult life that I'm addressing. There's some things that happened to me when I was younger that, and I'll be transparent. So when I was around Levi's age, I was molested by one of my cousins. I don't really remember too much about it. And the only reason I say this is how crazy my brain works is when my grandmother died and I watched her die in front of me, it triggered those memories because I kept having these reoccurring. I was having nightmares of my grandmom dying, but then I was also having these reoccurring um memories of being at my grandmom's house and my cousin pulling down his pants trying to get me to, touch him. And it was so vivid, like it was like looking at a movie. And I was like something's not right. Like I keep having this and it was like playing over and over again, like on a loop. Every time I would close my eyes and I would go to sleep, I would have that
Mhm.
same dream. So at the time I was seeing a grief counselor because I was traumatized by watching my grandmother die. Um and the way she died was horrific. She had pancreatic cancer, and what ended up happening, the cancer metastasized so much that her liver ruptured. Her liver ruptured, and when that happened, it was like black stuff coming out her nose, out her ears, out her mouth, every orifice of your body, it was coming out of. And she was literally like drowning in it. So trying, and then like I hear my mom like screaming in the background because she's never been around like dead bodies before, or somebody dying. And I have like because I used to do hospice care. So I was used to seeing like hearing the death rattles and being there as support for people, going into the final phase of dying. So I was used to it, but this is family, those were just patients that, I was there as a sense of comfort. But, watching someone that was the matriarch of your family trying to she was like, when I say she was a soldier to the end, like she was literally trying to fight that, like, and to see, um, literally see her soul leave her. Like you see life in her eyes, and all of a sudden, like her eyes just went gray,
mm,
and rigor mortis just like all of that. Like
mm,
Levon, I'm telling you, like when I tell people, like, and I didn't even stick with the grief counseling, so I don't even know if I really like did what I needed to do as far as grief for her. But um and it's so emotional when I talk about her because I miss her so much. But um she the nightmares finally stopped, and she came to me.
mm,
um Matter of fact, like, and I people think I'm crazy when I talk about this, but like when she died, like her spirit stayed in the house for a while. But the only two people she was making her presence known was to me and my mom, because we were the ones that was there when she died. And my dad thought we was tripping, like he don't believe in none of that. And I was like, Dad,
mhm,
I'm telling you, like I would be asleep and I could feel somebody sit on the side of the bed, like you feel the dip in the mattress, and someone like rubbing my back. Like first it scared the
mhm.
crap out of me because I was like, I am not going to turn over and look to see if anybody's sitting there. But it scared me, but then it was a sense of comfort that I knew that was my grandma. Right. And then she would visit my
That you knew
mom.
who it
So my
was.
mom used
Mm,
to sleep, like,
mhm,
because that whole experience totally messed her up too. So she was sleeping, like she wouldn't even sleep in her room. She was sleeping like in the den area. And the door was kind of like one of those accordion doors that would like slide open or whatever. And she would lock it, but then like
mhm,
um she said for a couple nights straight, and it was always the same time. It was always like around like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. The door would rattle. And my mom had a couple cats, and she would just think like, oh, it's one of the cats trying to come in. But then like, no, it's not them because they're locked downstairs in the basement, so it's not them. So it was grandma trying to like, you know, make her presence known to you, whatever. But eventually, we stopped feeling her presence. So I think like she, her soul could finally rest. And then she came back after Levi was born. And I would take him over to my parents' house, and we would be in the family room, and Levi would keep looking in a certain direction and start like cracking up. And I was like,
yeah.
yeah. And I was
My
just
son used
like,
to do
what
the
is he
same
like?
thing
What's
with
he
my
cracking up at? And then I
aunties.
would be like, grandmom's here. Like she came back to see her great grandchild. And then what was crazy, I had a dream about her recently, like a few days ago. And I haven't dreamt about her in over 10 years. So the dream was she was just really happy. She was just like so peaceful. Um, and I felt like a sense of peace. I don't know why she came to visit me again in my dream,
Mhm,
but um yeah, yeah, and I'm saying all this because I know like somebody is going through a lot, whoever's going to be listening to this. And I never really talked about the molestation. And full circle, this is how really weird it gets. So when my grandmother was dying of, when going through like her last couple weeks of life with cancer, she was living at my parents' house, and I was still living there as well. So my cousin, the one I told you that did some inappropriate stuff with me, he decided he wanted to come see, I mean, that's his grandmom too. So he came by to visit, brings his pregnant wife with him, right?
mhm,
So I'm in my room just chilling. So my mom was like, well, your cousin's here. And I was like, okay. And like, I don't want to see him. Like, what do I need to see him for? So um I come out the room because how my parents' house is like, it's like a rancher, so everything's like on one floor. So you come out, like the bedrooms are always off to the side. So you come out the hallway, there's a living room, and then you go through the kitchen. So as I'm coming through the living room to go in the kitchen, I'm just standing at the doorway because I didn't even want to walk into the kitchen. I'm standing there talking to my mom or my dad, but he's sitting at the table with his wife, and his wife is preoccupied on her phone. He's looking at me like a random dude would want to look at you like they trying to holler at you. And and it just brought back like all this like crap all over again. And I was just like, I just want to punch him in his face right now. And I was like, so I just like made some excuse of why I had to leave. I was like, I'm gonna go take a drive or something. But I haven't even talked about this to my therapist yet. Like the only thing she knows, and that was already like enough for her to hear, was like everything going on with um with Levi's dad, and the incident where he was left on his own and wandering. Like that was enough in itself. Like, and all that other stuff, like really all that just
Mm-hmm.
kept compounding, 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 compounding. And your brain can only take so much before it just tells you need to sit down somewhere and talk to somebody and heal this brain so you can live a happy, fulfilling life. Like I'm no good to nobody if I don't take care of my mental health. I'm no good to my son. I'm no good to my friends, my family, to
Yeah.
myself. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too much life to live to not what's the saying? It's too much life to live by not trying to live it. You know what I'm saying? Like right,
Mm-hmm.
or letting the
Or
right
being
or
trapped in the
letting
past.
the past imprison you, that you forget to learn how to live or
Mm.
how to thrive. You know what I'm saying? Like
To live
yeah, it
life.
was a lot of pain. It was a lot of great times in my past too, but unfortunately the pain is what will hold you down and hold you back from allowing you to be the best version of yourself. And I'm in
Mm-hmm.
this phase
Mm-hmm.
of my life now where I'm so unapologetically me. Like I really don't care if people judge me. I don't care if people don't understand me or they don't get me, or they don't understand why I go so hard for autism, why I go so hard for my child, why I'm so particular who I surround myself with, because you got to protect your energy at the end of the day, because people who are miserable, they will suck you dry like emotional vampires. That's what I call them. They're emotional vampires. They see you smiling and glowing and trying to live your best life, and they over here stuck in a rut because one, they're comfortable being where they're at and they don't want to push themselves to be uncomfortable to overcome whatever they need to overcome. And I can't live my life like that. I just feel like I have so much to live for and so much to offer in this world that I refuse to give power to people who try to destroy that. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with his dad. Like it'd be so easy for me to wallow in on this rampage of like he wasn't doing this and he wasn't helping me and he not, and guess what, I can curse him out, scream, yell, it's not going to budge and make him do what he needs to do. He got to come to his own understanding of what he needs to do for Levi. Me screaming and yelling and cursing, that's not going to do nothing but raise my blood pressure and stress me out. That's not going to do nothing for him.
Mm. Like I tell my mom, like when
Right,
she having those moments, I be like, "That's time you're not gonna get back. Like that's time that you wasted all that energy and stress and because
right,
whoever you talking to, they taking it in however they want to take it, and they could just walk away just as
right,
cool as a cucumber, like ain't nothing happened. And you sitting there, your blood pressure up, you angry, you yelling, you screaming. Like I had that happen to me maybe 2, 3 times, and the third time I was like, oh, I'll never,
right,
never ever let anybody take me out of my
right,
character before like that. I was like, I just can't have that happen. Like even my family members like, yo, I ain't never seen you like that before. But it was just like so much. I know exactly what you're saying. It was just so much that, like you were saying, like you holding it in. You not, you may tell a few people, but they don't understand. So, they be like, oh, child, go ahead and do what you gotta do, or things will get better, or and not saying that they won't, but at that time and moment, that's not what you want to hear. Like you want to hear like you need an outlet and you need to get it out. And if you don't have that support system, then it's just like it just stays in and just keeps building up and building up and building up. And then when they see you at that point and you like, and they like, I ain't never see her like that. Like I used to tease my family, like if I ever get to that point again, all people gonna say is she was so nice. Like I never know she would do something like that. And I was like, I don't want y'all saying that about me. I was like, I cannot allow myself to get to that point. So, like I was saying, sharing with with when you were sharing about therapy, like that's why I had to go get therapy. Like I was like, I can't let nobody take me to that point again because that's not me. Like I really felt like I was living like an out of body experience. Like I was like, that's that person I do not want to see no more. Like and I don't want to, get to the point where I'm cussing,
Right.
fussing, trying to fight somebody, and especially if my kids are there. Like that's the thing, and that's what occurred was I got to that point where and my kid, like one of my children, like literally had to stop me. Like, what are you doing? Like, like I was like, I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing, but we out of here. Like, this will never happen again. Um, So I know you mentioned, going hard for Levi and going hard for autism. So I want you to share some of the things that you're doing because you are doing some
Thank you.
amazing things. Like I'm so proud of you from the time that we met at the Autism Moms Night Out and now like you are like seriously blown
Don't
up.
be.
So I'm gonna stop talking. So I want you to share and I don't want to run out of time.
Yeah.
So I definitely want you to share about everything that you're doing, how you're advocating for Levi, how you're educating other parents, and then share any other projects, and also how people can contact you because
Okay.
I know we at like sort of like maybe got like 15 minutes left. Um, so I just want to make sure that
Right.
we can
Well,
get
don't
all
make me
that in
blush, Levine. I appreciate
before we
it.
run out of time. Yo, I just love it. Like I remember you was like, I got wrote a children's book when we was at the autism last night. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now where's that?
Right.
And he was like, oh, I'm working on it. I was like, okay,
Yeah, like,
let's
oh man.
go.
So, I'm a children's book author. My very first children's book is called Levi's World. I really didn't promote that one too much. It was kind of like see if people really can, embrace the book, how my writing skills are. And you know what? A lot
I
of
love
people
the
tell me
cover of
that,
that book.
like,
I mean, I love the book
they
in
like, I
general,
love
but I
how,
love
like, it's like
the
almost like a
cover
social
too.
story, but you kind of wrote it from Levi's point of view. And that's when I didn't have a budget. I didn't know about
Mm-hmm.
illustrations or none of that. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just take a whole bunch of pictures, put them through this app, and make them look like illustrations, format the book myself. And there we go, Levi's World. And when the Miles Morales movie came out, and I saw how Levi was so um into seeing a kid that looks like him dressed as his favorite superhero, I said, you know what, I'm like, and then Black Panther had came out, and I was like, you know what, I said, representation matters so much to our kids, and that they need to see more of themselves in books, in movies, in cartoons, in all forms of media, on TV, you know what I'm saying? So um I was like, I really want to create um a superhero character that's my son. And Echo Boy was born. And what was crazy is once I linked up with, and shout out to Reggie Byers, who was such an amazing illustrator. Reggie, I love you. You
Yes,
are
yes, he is.
you are a godsend. Like the
Yes,
way that
love
he
you,
just
Reggie.
pours his soul into my characters. I don't think anybody else would have pulled it off the way he did. And
Yeah,
right,
he's the man. Like he'll take your
right,
exact concept and turn it into reality. Like, because he did. Those of you who don't know, like he did my book as well, and I was just like,
right, right.
when he sent me the
Every
cover,
single
I
page he
started
would send,
crying
I
because
would,
I was like, that's
yeah, shout
exactly
out
what
to
I wanted.
Reggie. And
Yeah, shout out to
yeah,
Reggie.
like that's where ABC Girl was born, because one, I never had a second child, and I'll never be able to have a second child. But Um, I feel like if I had a daughter, it would have been Jasmine. That's why, like, when you read the book, and if you haven't read the book yet, I will tell you how to get it. But she's so feisty and fearless, and she loves Levi to death, and she's that type of friend that we all need, regardless if we're a kid or an adult. You want someone that's going to ride for you no matter what, and don't, doesn't tolerate anybody picking on nobody, and that's what she stands for, in the book. And I just love her so much. And the whole, like, it feels like a momentum is shifting for me, and I didn't really realize it until, like, you was telling me, and like someone else had like reached out to me and was like, yo, you were doing so many things, and I'm not really even thinking about it like that, because I'm like, I gotta get up, I gotta log in for work, I gotta get Levi ready for virtual school, I got a dentist appointment I gotta take him to, I got Dr. Zimmerman appointment, I got the outpatient therapy appointment, I got my own, I got so many things I'm juggling that I'm not even like sitting back and like um
Mm-hmm.
taking it all in, that like I'm really grinding out here to get people
Oh, yeah.
interested in loving this book, and educating people who may not. Surprising, there's still people who aren't familiar with autism, because they don't have anybody in their close circle that has it. So it's like people don't really pay attention to stuff unless it directly affects them. So it's our job as parents who are in that community to be like, hey, you know, this is my child. He has autism. I'm not ashamed of him. I will never be ashamed of him, because the way I look at it, if I don't believe in Levi, and I don't ride for my child, and I don't stand behind him and advocate for him, who else is going to do it? And then it's like, where's his confidence at? It's like, well, my mom didn't believe in me, or my mom didn't do this for me. Then, like, what's my worth out here? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm instilling in him, like, listen, you are going to make a difference in this world, and you are going to make your mark in this world. And guess what? Like, the autism is part of who you are. It's not a deficit. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to hide from. You embrace it, and you be apologetically who you are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I get emotional when I talk about him, but I'll
That's
do.
fine, cause you his ride or die. You're his advocate. Like, here we
Right,
go, an advocate for me. Like, that's exactly why I titled it that way. Like, cause like you were saying, like, if you're as the
right,
parent, if you're not advocating for them, then who's gonna do it? Like, in the schools, like, you gotta. I know, like, even with my son, like, I had to make sure, like, everybody understood, that he had a feeding tube. Like, they understood that, he got nurses coming to see him. Like, and that was their first time being around anything like that. Like, I remember his tube came out, his teacher called me hysterical. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed? I'm like, calm
right,
down. He know what to do. Like I taught him, I educated him. He cool. I'm on my way. But just being able to be out in the community and educate others
right,
is that's that's my goal, and I know that's your goal. Like, so that they can say that they didn't know. Like, we giving them an opportunity, whether it's a children's book, whether it's a podcast, whether we're coming to the school to talk to you. Like, we're making it known, what our children are diagnosed with, what they're going through on a daily basis, so that later on, when you're with our children, you know what to do with them. Like, you know how to adapt to them, you know how to, take care of them, you know how to, look out for them, like
right.
ABC Girl does for Echo Boy. So I definitely commend you. I don't know if you was finished because I know
um
you blowing up now,
Yeah,
so I don't know if you was
I just love my characters. So what I'm working on, and before, I'm like all over the place, but I just released the coloring book for ABC Girl. The book is so adorable, and it's like everything that I imagined, um just bringing out her personality, because I really just wanted to showcase her, because it's easy because of Echo Boy, that's Levi. So the first solo book I wanted to do was introduce who ABC Girl is, and
Mhm.
what she's about, what she stands for, what she loves, and who she loves, and how much she cares about Levi, and it's so many nice little gems I put in there to for kids to learn about values and learn about autism. And it's just, the book is just really amazing, and I can't wait to see kids color it and be creative with it. And if they do color it, take a picture of it, send it to me. I want to post it, on my pages just to show off the artwork and see how creative you guys get. um I did finish the manuscript for Echo Boy's solo book. The title of that is going to be Are You Okay? A story by Echo Boy. And that's going to help kids who have suffered trauma or have just had a terrible, terrible day. That's how I kind of describe it in the book. So when you read it, it's not going to re traumatize the child. It's really just going to be a sense of comfort. I'm looking to get that illustrated and finished, hopefully by February, the end of February. During my layoff time, I I don't even think I even told you this. I developed one, two, three, four, five more characters. So three more that's going to be with Echo Boy and ABC Girl, and two of them are villains.
Oh,
So they're going to be black and brown kids. So the whole squad is just going to be black and brown kids. The first one, her name is Selena. She's 11 years
oh,
old. Her superhero name is going to be Halo. She's in a wheelchair, and she's like the techie girl of the group. She's really smart. She likes making gadgets and stuff for everybody else on the team. Her service dog is her name is Kiana, but Selena calls her Kiki, and she's this big. I forgot what that breed is, but they look like half wolves, and they got those piercing blue eyes. That's that breed. She's going to be that breed, but she's going to be this big gigantic dog. And when she's helping kids, she turns different colors. So when the kid is mad, she turns red. When the kid is scared, she turns yellow. When the kid is happy, huh?
she like a
Right,
mood
right. Yeah,
dog.
she's an emotional support dog.
I said she like a mood dog.
Yeah, and
Changes with their
the
moods.
third
Oh,
character for the team, his name, I'm going to probably end up changing his name, but right now I have his name as Andrew, and he has a prosthetic arm. But the arm is really cool because it unlocks different things that he needs. So when he's riding his bike, it unlocks other like gadgets and stuff. And he has a little sidekick named Socket. And the villains is Hydra Girl and Dr. Arrogant. So the team name is called the Phenomenal Five. The title of the book that's going to be coming, because this is going to be a monster book, because I started writing the story, but to get these characters like illustrated and everything, Dr. Arrogant won't be in that book. I'm saving Dr. Arrogant for another book, but Hydra Girl will
mm-hmm.
be in that book. The title of the book is going to be The Battle for Justice, and we're going to be talking about racism, um, and how kids around that age, how they deal with it, because I want to make it at that level so that it can be relatable to that age group. So it's not too heavy, but it still has a message to it. It's going to take me a while to really like finesse the story and detail it so that I make those points across. So it's not too preachy, it's not too heavy, but when parents sit down and read the book to their kids, or the kids are reading it independently, they can get some good takeaways from it. Um what else am I working on? Oh, I am doing a interview on the 19th with a podcast media group that reached out to me. This is like so crazy, but they reached out to me on Twitter, and they were seeing me post about my children's book, the coloring book, and they were like, anything that you want us to help you with, we would love to do it. But we want you to come in for, to do an interview with us. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'm not gonna turn that down. So I'm doing that. I'm doing another podcast sometime in November. So yeah, I'm just yeah, as far as the children's book side, I'm pretty busy. I am doing something for the adults, but I'll save that for a different interview. But yeah, that's all that I'm really doing. And you can catch me on Instagram, Echo Boy's Mom 82, or my business page, Echo Boy and ABC Girl. All of the books are available on Amazon. So The Adventures of Echo Boy and ABC Girl and ABC Girl, The Wonderful World of ABCs. Both of them are on Amazon. Levine, I love you. I always appreciate you supporting me and believing in me so much.
Yes, I know when we first met that first time, I was like, look, you just gotta go, like educate everybody. My vision is to have like a whole special needs section. They could already have it, but our books would be over there too.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
and Barnes and Noble and at the library. So they might already have it, but I don't see our children. So that was my goal, is making sure that we have like a whole section for our children to see themselves and powerful, like, like a superhero, or, just sharing their journey. I'll share real quick. Jordan, we did the cover for his book. I've been talking about his book for almost a year now. But when you got a teenager who loves video games, it's just a matter of him actually sitting down. And I don't want to tell his story. So we did do the cover. Um, and hopefully we'll have that out. I want to say
Okay.
before the this year is over, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, but thank you so much for coming on. Like I was sharing with Chante earlier, she's my first interview, because usually y'all just hear my voice for a few minutes and then I am off. But it was exciting to talk to her. So I know we had to catch up on some things because we both been like really busy during the pandemic with virtual school and life, and you know being authors and business owners and everything else. So it was great to catch up with you. I want to tell you that you are so awesome. Like, just to hear like your story, and both of our stories are kind of similar with our past, and just making sure that we're empowering others. We're inspiring ourselves, like you were saying earlier, making sure that we build ourselves up so that we can be there for our children, and not only our
Oh
children
yeah,
but
well,
for
we
our
always got you,
community.
girl.
So I thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you 100 million times. Yes, like I just love what you're doing. Um, that 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 ABC girl book, like I was sharing with Chante, I got to get it
Yes,
for
she
my daughter,
is.
but I definitely got to get it for myself because she's fierce on that cover. Like, yeah, she is fierce. Like, I was just like, yes. And I saw it on Instagram. I was all screaming in the house. My daughter was like, what is wrong with you? I was like, ABC girl got her coloring book.
Yes.
Like, it's
Yes.
like I'm ready for her to be a real
Yes,
character
he
walking
did.
around. Although we did have one in Jersey when we yes. But I'm just ready for her to be like, I'm waiting for somebody to pick that up as a cartoon, like seriously, Echo Boy and ABC Girl. I think that would be awesome. So I'm sending it out
Yes.
into into the existence so that one
Yes, it
day
needs to.
your book will be an
Yes.
actual cartoon. Like, I'm just saying. So anybody
Right,
can pick it up.
Netflix. Come on.
Nickelodeon, Disney, whoever wants to pick it up first. I'm shouting it out right now. Oh, yes, somebody like that. That cover and that character is so awesome. But thank you again. So I know
Yep.
both of us will be at an event on Sunday in Lansdowne, PA, with awesome brushes. Alexis Woods, and she will be on the show soon. Um, so we have a few parents that's coming on that I'm interviewing for the month of October. So I'm so excited that they get to share their story. Um, so those of you who already know and those who don't know, you can follow Advocate for Me on our website, www.lmadvocateforme.com, or you can follow us on Instagram under Advocate for Me _L McMillan. I'm still working on the Facebook page because some of you know that it was disabled and I can't get access to my business page anymore. So we may be taking it down and then bringing up a whole new one. So I will keep you guys posted about that. Um,